When we think of our guts, we often think about how it looks, like after that last burrito, for example. But what's happening inside our digestive system is way more important. Today, we are going to discuss your gut microbiome and how probiotics and fiber can help keep things running smoothly. And when we say things, we mean the important stuff, like your health. Let's get into it. Okay, let's start with the basics. What is a gut microbiome? It's a term that scientists use to describe all the trillions of microorganisms living in our digestive tract, primarily our large intestine. This includes bacteria, fungi, viruses, and single-celled organisms that have been hanging out with us since we were born. You can think of them as tenants in a large apartment complex. In fact, there are more than 100 trillion microbes in your gut, which means there are more non-human cells in your body than human cells. Most of these microorganisms live in the large intestine, where they digest food components that we can't break down on our own, like fiber. They also produce useful compounds like short-chain fatty acids, which we'll call SCFAs, that play roles in digestion and metabolism. And those are just some of the ways that the gut microbiome helps us digest our food. The gut microbiome also has an enormous impact on our immunity, helping to train immune cells to distinguish harmless substances from dangerous invaders. There is even evidence that a healthy gut microbiome may reduce inflammation throughout the body. So keeping our gut microbiome happy is definitely in our best interest. Now, the makeup of our gut microbiome is highly individual. It's influenced by genetics and medical history, but is largely shaped by our diet over our lifetime. When we eat the same food over and over again, day after day, year after year, it can become easier for researchers to identify patterns within that community of microbes. For example, studies have found that people who regularly consume high-fiber diets have higher proportions of microbes capable of digesting that fiber, such as Bacteroidetes. But if we change our diets, our gut microbiome changes too. People whose diets switch from high fiber to low fiber have been found to have lower levels of Bacteroidetes. But don't worry, our gut microbiome can adapt to different diets pretty quickly. One study found that eating more fiber-rich foods for just 2 weeks was enough to make changes in the types of bacteria present. The key takeaway here is that we have the power to influence our gut microbiome for the better or worse through the foods that we eat. Now, let's talk about 2 gut-friendly food components that can help keep our tenants happy: probiotics and fiber. First up, we've got fiber. Fiber is a type of carbohydrate that our bodies can't digest, so it passes through our system mostly intact until it reaches the large intestine. That's where the resident bacteria come to feast. And this process actually serves as food for the microbes. So fiber is considered a prebiotic. Prebiotics are basically a type of fertilizer for good bacteria in our gut. In addition to fiber, other types of prebiotics include some forms of resistant starch and inulin. But most prebiotic fibers are naturally occurring plant-based carbohydrates like cellulose and hemicellulose, which are found in vegetables and whole grains like brown rice and oats. And then there's pectin, which is found in fruits and vegetables. Pectin can be broken down by certain bacteria into SCFAs, which have been shown to reduce inflammation in the colon. Soluble fiber dissolves in water and can form a gel-like substance in the gut. This can help slow down the digestion process and make you feel full for longer. You might have heard of this if you've ever eaten a meal containing chia seeds or avocados, both of which are high in soluble fiber. Insoluble fiber does not dissolve in water, and it does not break down into SCFAs like some of the other fibers we mentioned. Instead, it adds bulk to the stool and helps things move along through the digestive tract. One study found that eating more insoluble fiber increased stool frequency in constipated adults. On top of that, having enough insoluble fiber in your diet can prevent constipation and hemorrhoids. Sources of insoluble fiber include wheat bran, vegetables, and nuts. In general, a diet high in fiber can help promote the growth of beneficial bacteria while crowding out harmful ones. In one study, mice fed a high-fiber diet had higher amounts of bacteroidetes and fewer harmful firmicutes than mice fed a low-fiber diet. Increased bacteroidetes levels have been linked to improved insulin sensitivity and glucose metabolism in humans, and that's just one example of how eating more fiber might translate to real benefits for us. Researchers are still learning about how changes in the gut microbiome affect our overall health, but it's clear that eating enough fiber can help keep our gut microbiome diverse and abundant, which is good news for our health. According to the World Health Organization, adults should be eating 25 to 38 grams of fiber per day. But most people fall short of that recommendation. In fact, only 5% of adults get enough fiber. So, if you want to support your gut microbiome, try eating more fiber-rich foods like fruits, vegetables, and whole grains. Next, let's talk about probiotics. Unlike prebiotics, which are the fibers that feed the good bacteria, probiotics are live microorganisms that we can obtain through certain foods or supplements. Sauerkraut, a type of fermented cabbage, is rich in a probiotic bacterium called lactobacillus. Kimchi, kombucha, miso, and tempeh are other foods that contain probiotics. Kefir is a drinkable probiotic made by fermenting milk with kefir grains. These grains are actually a collection of microbes living together in a calcium carbonate matrix, but perhaps the most well-known probiotic food is yogurt. Yogurt is made when the bacteria Lactobacillus and Streptococcus feed on the sugars in milk, producing lactic acid, which gives the yogurt its tangy flavor. But not all yogurts have probiotics. To make sure that you're getting the good bacteria, look for the label Live and Active Cultures on the packaging. Some popular brands of probiotic-rich yogurts include Phage Total 0%, Siggi's, Wallaby, and Chobani. We will put all of those brands on the screen for you. If you take a probiotic supplement, look for one that contains at least 3 billion colony-forming units or more. The more colony-forming units, the more bacteria. And remember, more bacteria usually means a better chance of success. But keep in mind that probiotics are a bit tricky. Research shows that probiotics may improve symptoms in people with irritable bowel syndrome, but the effects vary depending on the strain of bacteria. For example, one strain might help someone with diarrhea, but not someone with constipation. Because of this, it can be hard to find a probiotic that works for you, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't try. One great option is to eat probiotic-rich foods every day. And keep in mind, we all have different gut microbiomes. So what works for your friend might not work for you. Probiotics are also sensitive little creatures. They can be killed by heat, stomach acid, and even some of our own gut enzymes. So taking a probiotic pill might not do much since it has to survive all that to reach your intestines. That's why probiotic foods are a better option. When we eat them, the microbes can start working immediately where they're at, in the mouth. It's also worth noting that some of the available research on probiotics has been inconclusive, meaning that some studies have found benefits while others haven't. More research is needed to determine exactly what a healthy gut microbiome looks like and how probiotics fit into the picture. Still, scientists are excited about their potential and hope that they will continue to prove useful for treating digestive issues. Finally, let's talk about minimizing damage to our gut microbiome. As we mentioned earlier, our gut microbiome is constantly changing in response to what we eat, but other factors can harm it, like overuse of antibiotics. Antibiotics are incredibly useful drugs that fight off bacterial infections, but they can kill off helpful bacteria along with harmful ones, including those in our gut microbiome. Overuse of antibiotics has contributed to a global crisis of antibiotic resistance, and that's why it's important to only take antibiotics when necessary and finish the full course of antibiotics so that we don't contribute to the problem. But even when we take antibiotics for good reasons, like to fight an ear infection for example, they can cause side effects like diarrhea. That's because they disrupt the delicate balance of microbes living in our guts. So, if you have taken antibiotics and developed diarrhea, consider talking to your doctor about the risks and benefits of taking a probiotic or eating probiotic-rich foods. Another way to minimize damage to our gut microbiome is to avoid processed foods. Not only do they lack fiber, which we know is important for feeding our gut microbes, but they also contain additives that can hurt the good bacteria in our gut. Artificial sweeteners, for example, have been shown to alter the gut microbiome in animal models. And while research on artificial sweeteners and the gut microbiome is still early, it's possible that they could be harmful to us as well. That's why it's a good idea to choose whole foods like fruits, vegetables, and whole grains instead of processed alternatives like candy, chips, and white bread. So there you have it. Your gut microbiome is a complex community of microbes that lives in your digestive tract and influences many aspects of your health. Eating a diet full of fiber and probiotic-rich foods can help keep it thriving, which is good news for you. We will link to a few helpful resources below. Thank you for watching this Gut Check episode, and thanks to a professional for helping us all stick the landing on this one. We couldn't have done it without you. If you have questions about your gut health, ask us below. We will answer as many as we can. See you next time.